The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.
सबके अधिकारों का रक्षक अपना ये गणतंत्र पर्व है। लोकतंत्र ही मंत्र हमारा, हम सबको इस पर गर्व है। नमस्कार, मैं हनी खुराना और इशिका शॉ आप सबका स्वागत करते हैं स्पार्क द्वारा आयोजित जश्न-ए-हिंद में। देशभक्तों के त्याग, तपस्या और बलिदान की अमर कहानी 26 जनवरी का पर्व समेटे हुए है। उत्सर्ग और शौर्य का इतिहास भारत की भूमि पर पग पग में अंकित है। किसी ने सच ही कहा है, कण कण में सोया शहीद, पत्थर पत्थर इतिहास है। 26 जनवरी हमारे देश के लिए बहुत ही खास दिन है। गणतंत्र का अर्थ है जनता के द्वारा, जनता के लिए शासन। हमारे देश का संविधान 26 जनवरी 1950 को लागू हुआ था। 26 जनवरी 1950 को हमारा देश भारत एक गणतंत्र देश बन गया था। किसी ने क्या खूब कहा है मोहब्बत इस वतन से, अपनी मिट्टी से हमें, इसलिए अपना करेंगे जानो तन कुर्बान हम। आगे बढ़ते हुए मैं आग्रह करती हूँ डॉक्टर अम्बरीश सक्सेना, डीन डीएमई मीडिया स्कूल, की वह इस पावन अवसर पर अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करें। ओवर टू यू सर।
थैंक यू हनी। कल हमारा देश गणतंत्र दिवस मना रहा है, तो उसकी पूर्व संध्या पर हमने ये कार्यक्रम आयोजित किया है। और ख़ास बात यह है कि चूंकि जो भी है, जब हम गणतंत्र की बात करते हैं या देश की स्वाधीनता की बात करते हैं, तो सबसे पहले हमारी निगाह उस युवा वर्ग पे जाती है, यूथ पे जाती है, जिसको ही इस सारी जिम्मेदारियों के साथ इस देश को आगे ले जाना है। तो उस दृष्टि से देखें तो रिपब्लिक डे हमारे लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है, क्योंकि इंडिपेंडेंस भले ही हमें 15 अगस्त को मिली, लेकिन जिस तरह का सिस्टम, जो डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम या जो रिपब्लिक सिस्टम हम देश में लाना चाहते थे, वो हमारा 26 जनवरी से ही शुरू हुआ। हालांकि संविधान 26 नवंबर 1949 को ही बन गया था, लेकिन जो औपचारिक रूप से उसको लागू किया गया वो 26 जनवरी 1950 को किया गया। उसका रीज़न था चूंकि पहली बार जब भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस ने जो पूर्ण स्वराज का प्रस्ताव पारित किया, वो 26 जनवरी को ही हुआ था। तो टू कमेमोरेट दैट डे we decided to formally implement our constitution on 26th of January. Now when we talk about constitution, obviously it's something which a person like me believes is something which is much more important than any religious book. In a way, that's the real religion. If we believe in religion, that's the real religion in India, because that is one such document which has kept us intact, which has kept this country united for the last more than 70 years. And then again, whatever is written in the constitution, that's not merely the written words. That's something which provides us certain values, whether we talk about freedom, whether we talk about equality, whether we talk about right to life. So whatever is mentioned, and particularly fundamental rights, if we make a mention about that, that's something which gives us a strength to live the life the way we want to. That's the ultimate thing, and that's the beauty of a democratic setup, that we can live our life unhindered, even unaffected or unrestricted, even by those who are governing us, even by those who are sitting in the corridors of power. But then every citizen is enjoying the same rights which even a prime minister or the president is enjoying. So that's what a democracy is. That is what a republic is. And that is why we are so proud of the Indian Constitution. And if we look around, obviously India is only one such country. If we look at our neighborhoods, whether we talk about Pakistan, whether we talk about Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, whichever country we refer to, every country has been having some or the other turmoil for the last 75 years, if we count it from the year that India got independence. But India has been having certain ups and downs, but those were minor in nature. And as far as the integration of the country is concerned, we have remained united despite all kind of adverse things happening, despite all kind of odd things are happening, despite so many times the political instability we have been witnessing. But still, we are one nation, and the whole credit for this goes to Indian Constitution. So while we celebrate, have to have this pledge that we will exert on our rights. We will do our best to ensure that the others also enjoy their rights, because every citizen has that kind of right. It's not a privilege of the few. And once our freedom is intact, once our dignified life is protected, then obviously anything is possible. And whatever we want to do to have a better life, to do the kind of occupations that we want to express whatever we want to. So all these freedoms we will enjoy. And if we all are enjoying our freedom, and if we all are getting all those benefits that we are entitled to as per the Constitution, the whole society will move ahead, the country will move ahead. And in DME Media School, we have always been having this tradition that the students take the lead in organizing all such things. So it's whatever is going to be presented here, that's completely the idea which came from the students. And I personally, as dean or the head, they are not involved into, we don't dictate, because what is necessary to take this country ahead is that we provide that kind of leadership in the hands of the students, that they can decide their own future. I welcome everybody on this Republic Day. I welcome Dr. Mani Bhushan also, because he agreed to spare time to be with us and with our students, and to add grace, to add glory to the function that we are organizing today. So I stop here and I hand it over back to Hani.
Thank you, sir. Youth is the most important and dynamic segment of the population in any country. It is believed that developing countries with a large youth population could see tremendous growth. We can undoubtedly say that today's young are tomorrow's innovators, creators, builders, and leaders. So let's see what the youth has to say about India. Presenting a vox pop by the members of SPARC. I request the technical team to play the video.
The thought comes to my mind whenever I heard the name of Rani Lakshmi Bai is "Khoob ladi mardani, वह तो झांसी वाली रानी थी."
The first thought comes to my mind when I think of Rani Lakshmi Bai is she's brave, she's empowering, and she has an unflinching courage.
Sarojini Naidu is a fearless activism in the Indian political arena.
When I listen about Rani Lakshmi Bai, the first thought is what a brave woman she is. She carried her own child and protected her own kingdom from Britishers, and that shows her bravery.
The very first thought that comes to my mind when I think of Rani Lakshmi Bai is her sense of flexibility as a leader and her confidence to take up arms.
She also represents Jhansi as a symbol of women power.
soldier, the fighter jets, tanks, and also we came to know different cultures through parade.
A representation and dedication towards nature and people.
That is the only thing. I wake up early in the morning to see all the soldiers, all the people getting awards and the floats. That's what 26th January is for me.
I feel extremely proud and honored.
Patriotic.
I think watching parade is a proud moment for every citizen of India.
A country free from caste-based system.
Unity.
India is not just a country, it's a feeling. It's like it has everything, and it has like so much love and so much diversity, and we are still so much united. So India is a feeling.
India is all about brotherhood and unity in diversity.
Development, as in developing nation to a developed nation.
The vision for India in one word would be developed.
My favorite song is A Watan from Razi.
Vande Mataram.
I have so many, but if I have to choose one, then it would be Desh Rangila Rangila, Desh Mera Rangila.
I'm so bad singer, but I'm still gonna sing like ए वतन वतन मेरे आबाद रहे तू, मैं जहाँ रहूँ जहाँ में याद रहे तू, ए वतन मेरे वतन.
Republic Day float which amazed me the most was
Every year I wait for the floats on Republic Day parade.
It's very difficult to choose one because I think each and every float is unique in itself.
It's Punjab. Punjab has the most beautiful float according to me.
The students representing the states.
Maharashtra 2015.
And my most favorite is Punjab wala float.
But if I have to choose one, then it would be Punjab and the float from the northeast, because I think they are very rich in heritage and they use different colors, which attracts me the most.
Delhi 2013.
They have like this dressed up in bhangra and they're doing bhangra, and it's like so much positive vibes and so beautiful it is.
Strength in our education system.
If I was the president for one day, I would say कि मैं visas हटवा दूँगी, because like Indians have to get visa for other international countries, but others don't have to, and that's not fair.
If I become president of India for a day, I will bring a law which will restrict anyone who is uneducated to stand as a nominee in election.
If I become the president for one day, I will definitely implement a political framework to enter into the politics so that only educated people will lead the nation forward.
I would like to limit facilities given to our Indian politicians.
One word for constitution is Bill of Rights.
Fundamental rights is like a base of constitution. Like if people don't have fundamental rights, there would be so much exploitation. So it's the best article for me to consider in Indian constitution.
Secularism in one word is religion.
People tend to forget their fundamental duties but do remember their rights, which is actually very wrong.
The Vox Pop is presented by Tamanna, Swarnima Gupta, Milan Malla, Akanksha Rawat, Christina Sajan, and Yugansh Chopra. The ideation and creation of the video was by Hani Khurana, Syed Haider, and Sufia Mirza. Now, I welcome today's special guest, Dr. Mani Bhushan, author, researcher, mentor, professor, Delhi University. Before we hear from Sir, let me introduce him to all students and faculty members. Dr. Bhushan has completed his Master's, MPhil and PhD, in Political Science from the University of Delhi. Dr. Bhushan was among the 3 selected for the Nehru Centenary British Fellowship in 1989. Sir joined as lecturer in 1992 after completing PhD research and has taught honors, masters and MPhil students of Delhi University. Dr. Bhushan has also supervised research scholars of DU and Himachal University. Sir has several articles published in various journals and books. He has also presented papers and chaired sessions at several national and international seminars. Moreover, Dr. Bhushan has delivered several online lectures at CEC EduSet UCG initiative for students across India and has conducted several workshops on personality development and communication skills at reputed institutions. Now I request Sir to take over the session. Over to you, Sir.
Thank you so much. That was very kind of you. So, Honorable Dean DME Professor Ambrish Saxena, Head Professor Sushmita Bala, Mr. Vishal Sahai and other learned faculty members, the coordinators for this program, Ms. Sufia Mirza, Ms. Hani Khurana, Ms. Mudita Raj, and all others who are so enthusiastically involved. A very good afternoon and heartiest greetings on the eve of our Republic Day. With every passing year, we have been maturing as a democratic republic. And today, I take this opportunity to wish all of us a very healthy and vibrant India. Healthy and vibrant physically, mentally, financially, socially, as well as politically. I know that the recent pandemic has hit us hard, and many of us are quite worried. But believe me, the darker the night, the brighter will be the morning. Actually, crisis, problems, conflicts, contradictions, failures, pains, etc., are catalysts that force us, that push us to look for better alternatives, to do better, to bring about betterment. If there was no impetus for change, the society will stagnate. And any stagnant society, like stagnant water, will very soon start stinking. So instead of brooding over or mourning the problems and crisis, we should try to focus on solutions which can lead us to a brighter future. I'll stop here because I'm expected to speak on something related to the Constitution. But before I begin, let me admit that I belong to the old school of teaching learning system. And without face-to-face interaction with you and without having the opportunity to move around while speaking, I may at times appear to be a bit boring. So kindly bear with me. Today, I'll concentrate on a very important issue, which I believe was the most important reason behind our struggle for freedom. I'm talking about unequal or discriminatory treatment we were subjected to. Now, many historians, economists, and scholars have tried to establish that acute economic exploitation was the reason why the Indians rose to throw away the British rule from here. I don't contradict the facts, figures, and the acuteness of the economic crisis that was created by the British and their policies. I only have to say that we have to remember that the British were exploiting us, were oppressing us through the zamindars, the money lenders, the policemen, the petty officials at the local level, who were all Indians. And so it was difficult. I mean, it is difficult to expect the largely uneducated masses of India to have understood that the British were responsible for our plight. Actually, even today, it is very, very difficult to understand capitalist exploitation, not only for the uneducated masses, but also for the educated people. If you want, you may ask questions during the question answer session, and I'll illustrate this. Coming back to the issue of unequal or discriminatory treatment, I'm reminded of a beautiful book by Robert Ted Gurr. It's called Why Men Rebel, in which he argues that it is not poverty, but the feeling of being deprived relative deprivation is what hurts people and what makes them rebel. Saying that the French Revolution began not during the acute economic crisis, but when the economic boom began. Crane Brinton says that it was because people saw some people getting away with most of the benefits of economic boom that they revolted. Even Lenin suggested that all paupers are not proletariats. What he meant was that the have-nots had to be made conscious of their class position, about their position vis-a-vis the bourgeoisie, about the struggle for emancipation. Right? So in India, as the economic exploitation and oppression was going on at the hands of the Indians themselves, it is difficult to expect that the Indians would have rebelled against the British, thinking that they were responsible for their situation. Now, some people may claim, they actually claim, that the Santhal uprising of 1840s was against the colonial rule. The fact is that it had begun as a protest against the local moneylenders and landlords. And it was only when the local administration, British administration, tried to help the oppressors that the agitation became anti-colonial, anti-British. Right. So most likely, the apparent, arrogant, and loud acts of discrimination and humiliation of Indians were bigger reasons for us to have agitated. Some of them I would enumerate where it pinched. First, all of us have heard the boards reading dogs and Indians not allowed. It hurt. Second, an Indian judge was not allowed to hear cases of British people. A British judge could hear any case, but Indian judge would not hear cases involving British. Even justice had different parameters. A British offender would get away with any crime, even if there was evidence, and an Indian would get punished even without evidence. Otherwise, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev would not have been given capital punishment. Right? Fourth, the Indians were not allowed to get promoted beyond the middle level ranks and positions in army, police, or administration. Fifth, by lowering the maximum age to appear at ICS examination from 25 to 21 and then 21 to 19, and holding the examination only in England, they tried to ensure that no Indian could enter the ICS directly. Right. Then they had dual taxation policy. Indian goods were taxed heavily. And seventh, even in day-to-day life, the British maintained exclusiveness and elitism. They would mingle only with the whites and look down upon, insult, humiliate, and misbehave with Indians. And on a lighter note, even Gandhiji decided to agitate only when he was thrown out of the first-class compartment in which blacks and browns were not allowed to travel. So this discriminatory treatment is what makes people agitated. How much had this unequal treatment hurt us becomes evident when we see that the Constituent Assembly decided to have right to equality as the first fundamental right. See, we talk of freedom, but freedom is the second, has the second position. The first position went to right to equality. Articles 14 to 18 not only declare any discrimination on any basis as unconstitutional, they are also meant to provide equal treatment. But one provision has remained contentious. I hope you all know. Clause 4 of Article 16, which says that the state can opt for protective or positive discrimination if it feels that certain sections of the society are lagging behind socially and educationally. Now, the critics argue that equal treatment and discrimination are contradictory and so cannot coexist. Right? But before arriving at any conclusion, we must refer to our social history. Wrong interpretations of the Varna Vyavastha resulted in the establishment of a hegemonic and hierarchical caste system. It was very rare for someone to be able to transgress or break the rigid boundaries. And therefore, a large section of our population was labeled, branded inferior and even untouchable. They were subjected to all kinds of humiliations and disabilities. They're not even allowed to get educated. Now, such discriminatory treatment over centuries created a mindset in which the people who had been suffering actually started believing that they were inferior. Now, this is a very important aspect, that even after independence, when we provided for right to equality, they were unable to shed off their inhibitions. They were unable to come out of the shell. And on the other hand, the haves, the people who had been getting all facilities, found it difficult to shed off their arrogance, difficult to accept them as equals. Now, here I would like to illustrate this problem by a simple example. I mean, when I say you, anybody, even me, you have a domestic help. When you go back home, he offers you a glass of water and organizes your clothes and shoes that you might have thrown away in your room somewhere. You don't even bother to thank him. And he doesn't complain either. He's okay with it. One day, your conscience pricks and you offer a glass of water to him when he comes back from a grocery shop or a vegetable shop. And you try to organize his slippers on the shoe rack. Now it will be very, very difficult for you to do this, but believe me, it will be equally difficult or maybe more difficult for the poor help to accept this as a reality and to adjust to it. You will have to make special arrangements to create an atmosphere in which both of you can act and behave as equals. Similarly, at the time of independence, we required special measures to instill some sort of confidence in the minds of the weaker sections and to educate the others to treat them as equals. Another justification comes from the sociologists who say that it is easier for someone from an educated family background to excel. But the son or daughter of uneducated parents have to labor really hard to succeed. This is a sociologically established fact. First generation students, second generation students, and so on. Accordingly, the policy of reservation was designed to create a level playing ground for all to compete as equals in future. This policy was supposed to be a temporary arrangement to support and complement the policies and programs of the government to bring up the level of the weaker sections at par with others. Unfortunately, instead of being used as a support mechanism to ensure capability enhancement for empowerment of the weaker sections, this policy has remained like a mask to hide the failure of the governments to bring about meaningful change, meaningful development, and actual empowerment. It is really sad. While the elites of the erstwhile disadvantaged sections are getting away with all the benefits, overwhelming majority of children from these sections have to skip schools to work to feed their families. They cannot expect any benefit of this policy. Now, you, the future of this great nation, have to be the torchbearers of positive change. You have to understand that the issue is not about being for or against reservation. It is about empowerment. It is about enhancement of capabilities. And most importantly, it is about change of mindset. You have to convince people that anybody can excel, anybody can achieve anything, provided he or she applies himself or herself honestly, and provided others voluntarily lend support and guidance. Right? Now, I shall conclude by stating that the most important thing is to be happy, and that no happiness is greater than the happiness you derive when you become the reason for somebody else's happiness. So, reach out to help as much as possible. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us about the Constitution. Thank you so much. I see that there are a few questions in the chat box. I'd like to take them one by one. So our first question is from Ishika. She wants to know, how far are the directive principles implemented in the essence by our lawmakers as they were written in the Constitution?
Right. Okay, see, there are different types of rights. The civic and political rights are covered under the fundamental rights, and the socio-economic rights, broadly speaking, are covered under the directive principles. At the time of independence, we were not in a position to ensure all these to our citizens. So we had to prioritize. And in priority, we said that, well, fundamental rights would be justiciable and directive principles will not be justiciable. I mean, for non-implementation, you cannot take the state to court. It will be non-justiciable, but nevertheless, they are directives to the state that you should try and frame laws to implement these, to ensure these. Right. Initially, there was a conflict, fundamental rights versus directive principles. But now we have arrived at some sort of consensus that both complement each other. So fundamental rights provide you with civic and political rights, and the implementation of directive principles ensure socio-economic rights to you. And all the rights are important for one's personality, one's growth, one's living, one's betterment. So directive principles have to be implemented. And now, over the past few years, governments are trying and they are implementing directive principles. And I believe that there is no contradiction now.
Thank you, sir. Actually, our next question you've already answered. This was from Aditi. She wanted to know what is the relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles, but I think you've already cleared that. Our next question is from Agam. He wants to know, has industrialization and poverty divide increased the distance between practice and implementation of fundamental rights?
Well, economic development is very important for realization of any right. So unless you have capability, you cannot ensure good life to your citizen. So be it fundamental right or any other right. But in this chapter of fundamental rights, we have certain rights which are not dependent on money, not on wealth. Right to life, right to personal liberty, right to equal treatment. These are rights which would anyway be given to the citizen, irrespective of our economic capabilities. So economic growth can help in better realization of socio-economic rights, yes. And maybe in some cases, yes, when we talk of justiciability of fundamental rights, not everybody is in a position to go to court to fight for his fundamental right. So maybe if the economic situation is better, people would be in a better position to realize these rights. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sir, this question is from Nandini. She wants to know, how does our constitution date in terms of inclusivity, farsightedness in comparison with the other colonized countries?
See, every country frames a constitution to guide its political system, social system, judicial system. Every country has its own socio-cultural, political, economic milieu for which certain sections are suitable, certain are not. So it is difficult to compare all the constitutions, but yes, at that point of inclusiveness, Indian constitution is very explicit in trying to ensure inclusiveness. I said during my address that right to equality, right to equal treatment was considered to be most important when we were framing our constitution. Now, when we talk of equality or equal treatment, it cannot be without being inclusive, right? So the first fundamental right is right to equality, which says that there cannot be any discrimination on any basis. But at the same time, it also tries to create an atmosphere, to create a situation in which people can realize their rights. I mean, right to equality of opportunity we were discussing. Now, a person whose father was educated, whose grandfather was educated, whose great-grandfather was educated, you would very easily get into competition mode. But a person whose father and forefathers were poor laborers, it will be very, very difficult for him to suddenly come and compete as equals. So the Constitution tried to create a level playing ground, to support him through reservation and other protective and positive discriminatory policies, so that he also comes up to that position. So that I'll give you one personal example. My grandfather was a good chess player. So whenever I used to go home during my vacations, he would ask me to, आओ खेलते हैं. I would say, no, आप हरा देंगे. अच्छा ठीक है, मैं अपना वजीर हटा देता हूँ, मैं बिना वजीर के खेलूंगा, आप खेलो. तो मुझे लगता था कि हाँ, अब तो मैं हरा सकता हूँ. ऑफ कोर्स नहीं हरा पाता था, बट कम से कम वो कॉन्फिडेंस आता था. तो वो लेवल प्लेइंग ग्राउंड का मतलब यही होता है कि एक हैंडीकैप आप क्रिएट करते हैं फॉर योरसेल्फ एंड टू गिव अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर द अदर टू compete. So in this sense, yes, our constitution has been very inclusive.
Sir, our next question is from Ishpreet. He wants to know, our present Prime Minister emphasized duties at the cost of rights similar to Mrs. Gandhi in 70s. Why is it that leaders with popular mandate always stress on duties and downplay rights?
Well, again, I mean, I find this slightly problematic. Duties and rights are not contradictory. Not like one will, actually they supplement and complement each other. No right can be enjoyed without the concept of duty on the part of others. And no duty can be performed honestly without having rights. So when we say that, well, duties are being emphasized, it is not at the cost of rights, but it is maybe vis-a-vis, but not at the cost of. What happens is that in human beings are very gullible beings. we tend to take whatever is hedonism, whatever gives us pleasure, and we reject whatever gives us pain. So we have taken rights and forgotten about duties. Well, Indira Gandhi, late Indira Gandhi ji, she prescribed whole list of duties and incorporated in the constitution also. But just incorporation in the constitution does not mean much unless what we discussed earlier, unless there is a change in the mindset, the thought process. It has to come from within. I mean, I have a right to play in the park, to sit in the park, to discuss in the park. This is my right. Nobody can stop me. If somebody stops, I'll feel hurt. But if there are litters, if some objects are falling, are there here and there, it is my duty to pick them up and put in the dustbin. Now, unless I clean up the park, will I be able to enjoy my right? I'll not be able to sit if it is stinking, if it is littered. So if I have to realize my rights properly, I need to perform my duties properly too.
Sir, I think there are a lot of more questions, but we'll take the last question. This is from Heather. He wants to know that if you were there in the Constitution Drafting Committee, what one thing would you add given the contemporary situations?
Don't get me wrong, but I have been very critical of this point, that our fundamental right to practice any religion is fine. But why should there be a fundamental right to preach and spread my religion? This I have found problematic, especially when we decided to make India a secular nation. See, why I say this? I mean, suppose a very mundane example. I have this Samsung phone, right? You have an Apple. Now, I start proving that Samsung is the best. You start proving that Apple is the best. Till the time we are talking about the pluses, no problem. But ultimately, it has to come to this. I will have to ridicule one or two aspects of Apple, and you will have to ridicule one or two aspects of Samsung. To completely clinch the argument, you have to, you cannot avoid. So when I am preaching my religion, no problem. But when I'm trying to convince to spread, I tell you, well, my religion is better. I'll have to somewhere criticize your religion. And that is where I find this to be problematic.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering all our questions. I can see a lot more, but because of time constraints, I think we'll definitely invite you for a altogether.
Yeah, it was very good. And students asking so many questions is a sign of a vibrant institution.
Mudita, you can name the students who have asked the questions.
Yes, sir. Syed Heather asked question. Ishpreet, Ishika, all these people have asked questions. I can see a few questions in the chat box as well from
But I find that Kunal Srivastava has asked a question. Khushi Srivastava has asked. Rohit Gupta, Shiksha, then Sakshi Mishra, Jay Suruhi. All these students have also asked the question. Okay, go ahead.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I've been receiving a lot of questions in my personal chat box on Zoom as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
Now, thank you so much, sir. But because of time constraint, I think we'll move on to the next segment. Over to you, Honey.
Thank you,
Right,
sir.
thank you
I
so
think there
much.
has been a lot of takeaways from the session. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Susmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to share her remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honey. Today, on the eve of Republic Day, I greet you all. आज हम लोग कुछ डिफरेंट तरीके से की बात करेंगे, क्योंकि आज कुछ डिफरेंट हुआ है जो शायद पहली बार हो रहा है. What is different? इस बार इंडिया गेट पर अमर जवान ज्योति नहीं चलेगी, बिकॉज इसे नेशनल वॉर मेमोरियल के साथ मर्ज कर दिया गया है. एंड सेकेंड थिंग, ब्रिलियंट बच्चे जिनको हमेशा किसी न किसी फील्ड में किसी उपलब्धि के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया जाता था, पुरस्कृत किया जाता था, उन्हें इस बार ऑनलाइन एड्रेस भी किया जाएगा और उन्हें ऑनलाइन ही सम्मानित किया जा रहा है. तो दिस इज डिफरेंट like other Republic Day. And today is polling day, और विशेष रूप से youths को inspiration देने वाला दिन है. And today celebration is also done by SPARC team by youths. So it's very important for us. And आज पर्यटन दिवस भी है. पर्यटन दिवस को हम केवल दिवस की तरह नहीं मनाते, हम बात करते हैं कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक की, और हर रंग से रचा बसा है हमारा देश. और रिपब्लिक डे में हम लोग देखते भी हैं कि हर तरह के टैब्लू रिपब्लिक डे परेड में दिखाए जाते हैं. इट मीन्स वी आर लिविंग इन अ कंट्री वेयर आवर राइट्स आर बीइंग प्रोटेक्टेड. एंड इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन we have all those freedom which are essential for living in a quality life, but what exactly in the situation on the ground? To what extently we are allowed to enjoy our freedom? Dr. Mani Bhushan raised many such questions in his address. He talked about economic hardship of people. He talked about social discrimination, casteism, and so on. Dr. Mani Bhushan also responded to the questions of students and helped in quenching their thirst. We are grateful to him for igniting the young mind. Thank you. Thanks to all of you, this wonderful program. Thank you.
The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.